That's the starting grid then. Ferrari, McLaren, the two BMWs on row 3, Kubica and Heidfeld. And, well, they set an identical lap time at one point during qualifying, but eventually Kubica getting in front of Heidfeld. Kovalainen and Rosberg then on row 4. Trulli and Fisichella, the two Italians. Trulli making a small mistake, as did Raikkonen. One of the reasons why he's back in third place, Kimi Raikkonen. Anthony Davidson, though, undoubtedly the hero of the qualifying hour. 11th in the Super Aguri Honda. And just look at the people he's put behind him. Webber, Coulthard, Wirtz, Ralf Schumacher. Some big names, race winners behind him there. And right at the back, the sorry story for Honda continues, Martin, with the engine change for both of these cars pushing to the back of the grid. And it's a long way forward from there in every respect for Honda. They can only dream about 2008 and just hopefully just wake up from this nightmare. Yeah, it could be quite crucial as the race goes on. Remind you that you have to use both the hard and the soft compound Bridgestone tyre at some point during the 58 laps of this Grand Prix. And a lot of people suggesting that the way in which you use them, whether you go with soft for 2 of the 3 stints or hard for 2 of the 3 stints, and in which order you use them.
17 is quite a racy strategy. If you want to do optimum to optimise your fuel load and tyre usage, it's around lap 21. But they all run just that little bit lighter, give themselves a better grid slot, better. It automatically blips the throttle to synchronise the engine revs on the downshifts. Whatever it is, David Coulthard suspects a problem.
There is no more exciting or better moment in sport than the build-up to the start of a Grand Prix. Hamilton on the right, Massa on the left. The third Turkish Grand Prix is go. Great start by Hamilton. He comes across one of the BMWs. Kubica it is, has been very active off the line, but Raikkonen has got the jump. That is critical. And we've got a spinner in the midfield. I think it's Jarno Trulli in the Toyota, which has caused Sato to go off track. And look at the McLaren. You can see of Alonso side by side with Heidfeld, I believe it is. So Kubica has made the move, and Alonso has to yield. So that's 2 BMWs in front of Alonso. But critically, Martin, 2 Ferraris out front. And once again, that dirty side of the racetrack did for Hamilton.
It did, and also, of course, they were on the soft tyre, and he, probably slightly surprisingly, was on the hard. He obviously thinks that's the better tyre for the first phase of the Grand Prix, but it cost him those 3 or 4 metres. And also, as you say, the cleaner side of the track for Raikkonen got him through. But what happened to Alonso? He had a terrible start.
Massa leads, Raikkonen is second. Third is Hamilton, 4th Kubica, 5th Heidfeld, 6th Fernando Alonso, the reigning world champion, 7th Kovalainen, 8th Rosberg, 9th Coulthard, 10th Mark Webber, 11th is Wirtz, 12th Liuzzi. Good start for him. Fisichella's had a bad start. He's down to 13th in the Renault. Ralf Schumacher up to 14th in the Toyota. Davidson has lost 4 places in the Super Aguri on the opening lap, down to 15th spot. You can see the 2 BMWs there battling with Alonso. In many ways, Martin, Hamilton has got to worry about the Ferraris, yes, but he's so far ahead of them at championship. His main concern, his biggest job today, is to keep Alonso behind him. And having 2 BMWs between himself and his main rival is not a bad scenario.
I don't think Lewis will be totally dissatisfied with that. He knew, from what he was saying on the grid, he knew he was under pressure from the Ferraris. He's kept ahead of Alonso, as you say. I think he'll be fully satisfied. All 4 wheels pointing in the same direction. Good strategy. He'll probably like those tyres. And there's an awful long way to go yet. So Jarno Trulli currently running last but 1 in the Toyota. He was the spinner in the first corner. This is Alonso down into turn 1. And oh, so close to spinning that. Well held.
Well, he will have some concern about how much fuel Nick Heidfeld is carrying in the 5th place car in front of him.
Hamilton immediately going defensive to the Ferraris, just past him already, long gone. He had a sensible pill and didn't try to get back up the inside of Raikkonen, as you see the Toyota spinning right in the middle of the pack, and some brilliant driving from many of the others to avoid any further contact. Look at that, no contest down to turn 1 in terms of launch and grip. And here we go, we're on board with Trulli, and he just got in a bit deep. Suspect he had a little push up the back as well to help him into that spin. Almost certainly he had a punch up the back by the Renault then of Giancarlo Fisichella that spun him around. Not his fault.
Yeah, you could see it from on board with Trulli. He got a nudge and round he went. There's been a lot of that going on this weekend. GP2 race as well. And here we go at the front then. Massa Raikkonen, Hamilton. Hamilton did exactly the right thing at the start once he realised he'd lost the place to Raikkonen. Put his car right in the middle of the track so that Kubica of Lewis Hamilton off the start line. He's all elbows. Raikkonen got in front of Hamilton. That was crucial for him, and he is a second behind his teammate at the front. Hamilton is being dropped at the moment. At last lap, he was 0.6 of a second slower than Kimi Raikkonen, and he is now 2 seconds behind the Finn in third. Kubica going well at the moment in 9th place with teammate Mark Webber in 10th behind him, and Alex Wurz is on their tail in the second Williams. Anthony Davidson is 14th, having started 11th on the grid, and Jenson Button has made some progress. He is now up to 18th place, battling with Jarno Trulli.
Interesting, isn't it? You've got two teams, and both of those teams that can win the championship, both of those teams have had two drivers in contention. So you've got Massa and Raikkonen thrashing it out to beat each other, when really it almost should be the stage of the season where they're into team play. They just can't do that. If the Ferraris keep going like that, and if they're fueled to the same distance as Hamilton at the moment, Hamilton's fighting for third place and third place only. The Ferraris are flying at the front on those softer tyres.
Webber retiring from this Grand Prix. Ted Kravitz is down there. What can you tell us?
Mark Webber, just on quickly on Mark Webber, they've had to bring him into the garage, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get him going. But just one telltale sign, as he came down the pit lane, the hydraulically operated fuel flap wasn't working. And previously in other races I've noticed that, and it's been a hydraulic failure. So we'll wait to hear from him, but that's what it looks like for now for Webber.
The win and leave Massa feeling really rather nonplussed. It's long gone are the Schumacher days at Ferrari where one driver was given the preferential treatment. This is absolutely between them to sort it out. Yeah,
and that's what I was saying earlier on. You know, from a championship perspective, surely much sooner than later they're going to have to nail their colours to one of those drivers if they want to take the Drivers' World Championship. Behind Raikkonen, for the ITV viewers and fans of the British drivers, we've got a Hamilton third, Coulthard 8th after that pit stop of Kubica. Anthony Davidson 13th for Superguri. Jenson Button 16th for Honda. He's line astern with teammate Barrichello. They both managed to get back past Jarno Trulli.
Fernando Alonso then, we just saw him, 14 seconds off the race lead. That's the second a lap since this race began that he's lost. This is his 100th Grand Prix, and he was quite emotional about that yesterday afternoon, thanking everybody for their support over the last 100 GPs. It has been an amazing run for him. 2 world titles and 18 race victories in these 99 races so far. In comes Heidfeld, and he is the second of the BMWs to make his first stop here this afternoon. On the harder tyre at the moment. Let's see what he goes to.
Now Alonso's got to nail it, while Heidfeld cruises down the pit lane at just 50 miles an hour. Still looks quite fast if you stand in front of a car coming at you at 50 miles an hour. Helmet cam there showing that the left front is easily ready to go. Quite a lot of fuel going in that car. Plenty of people pitting. Rosberg and Coulthard too from 7th and 8th places.
Back out goes Heidfeld.
Ahead of
just in front of Kubica. That's interesting. So that's a change. Kubica was in front before, but by staying out a bit longer, that's given Heidfeld the chance to leapfrog his teammate. So Heidfeld will be in front of him now, and I think certainly Kimi Raikkonen will have paid attention to that, and be hoping if he's got more fuel than Massa that he'll be able to do the same thing. Ferrari getting ready then. We believe it might be for Kimi Raikkonen. So maybe Massa was the one with the most fuel, if that's the case. Let's wait and see.
Well, it makes sense because Raikkonen made that error, didn't he, in that very corner he's just come through yesterday. He probably should have been on pole position. McLaren getting ready, I suspect, for Hamilton. We'll wait and see. So Raikkonen pits, and we think actually it's Alonso pitting first. He went out on the harder tyres, thought he'd play an ace card yesterday and failed miserably with that, with the harder tyres. Alonso P4 on the grid. Massa then a new fastest lap of the race while Raikkonen is in for service. Alonso indeed pits for McLaren.
That's how far behind Kimi Raikkonen he was. Raikkonen's already had service and gone back out again before Alonso comes to a stop. Another set of the harder tyres going on for McLaren. Raikkonen stayed with the softer Bridgestone, so two completely different attitudes to this race and how to run it between McLaren and Ferrari at the moment. Where is Alonso going to feed back out? One of the Renaults has just gone through Fisichella in 7th place. And Heidfeld, of course, is the man that Alonso is racing against. Here he is, and there is Alonso, I believe. So if that's the case, Alonso has leapfrogged him.
Yeah, must have been a great in-lap from Alonso, and it has made the difference. Heidfeld putting a lot of fuel in the car, we know. And is that doesn't look like a McLaren in front, does it? Or is it?
Pretty sure it has to be. On board then with Heidfeld being shown as in 7th place then in the BMW. Remember, Robert Kubica, his teammate, is behind him. So quite a lot of change to the order here through the first round of pit stops. We've had one retirement so far. It's Mark Webber as the race leader. Felipe Massa comes in for his first pit stop, and this is going to be a pretty important one. Remember, he did a lap longer than Raikkonen, so he should be able to rejoin in front. But any mistakes or slip-ups here will hand the lead to Raikkonen. Looks pretty smooth to me at the moment. Reasonable amount of fuel going in for Massa. Slightly slow away from his pit box. Where is his teammate?
It's a long way down that pit lane at 50 miles an hour. We know that Raikkonen had an awesome in-lap, but surely Massa is going to comfortably maintain the lead. There's a Renault there that must be Kovalainen, presumably. Yes, it is Kovalainen, who's yet to pit. Did Kovalainen run second? Hamilton leads this Grand Prix.
Louise has found Mark Webber, who's retired from this race.
Mark, Ted was speculating that perhaps it was a hydraulics problem, is he right?
Yeah, it looks like it's hydraulics, so yeah, it's always a shame to retire from a race. We're going quite long, longer than the people in front of us, and including David and a few other people, and sitting in there ready to go for the rest of the race. And yeah, it's always a pain in the ass when you don't get to the finish.
You've had hydraulics problems before. Is it the same area of the system every time?
Well, I just, on the previous lap, I started to have problems with entry problems, you know, so yeah, downshifting, and then so I don't know if it's exactly the same problem, but for me in the cockpit it is the same problem. So
thanks, Mark.
Race leader Lewis Hamilton comes in. He'll hand the lead back to the Ferraris, of course. He was 3 seconds behind them before the first round of pit stops, but he will have made up some time, I think, by staying out. His in-lap was extremely fast, particularly the middle sector of it. Another set of hard Bridgestone tyres goes on. The fuel goes in, quite a lot of fuel for Hamilton. He won't get back out in front of the Ferraris. There they are, coming down the straight. Will he get one of them, perhaps? No, it doesn't look like he will get either of them, but he's running quite a long middle stint here, Lewis Hamilton, and on these harder tyres, so still all to play for if he can stay in touch with them through this middle part of the race.
Yeah, he's closer to them. He put in some great laps just before he came in, but he was 4.1 seconds adrift. Heikki Kovalainen leads the Grand Prix for Renault. Second, third and fourth are right behind him. Definitely Hamilton was a net gainer there. I thought Raikkonen would have done more than that of fuel in that McLaren as well. So they weren't tempted to rush that short Phil Hamilton, try to get him out in front of the Ferraris. They'll save that little trick up their sleeves if they can later in the Grand Prix.
Well, we were speculating earlier about whether it would be a replay of France where Raikkonen put more fuel in at the first stop and then was able to leapfrog Massa at the second. They put exactly the same amount of fuel, we're told, into both of the Ferraris. The difference is that Massa stopped a lap later, so he will go again a lap longer in the middle stint. So that's not going to be enough probably to give Raikkonen a chance to leapfrog him. He's going to have to do his work out on the racetrack. The man to watch, definitely Lewis Hamilton, who stopped later than them and has put more fuel in. He's got to try and make this set of tyres last quite a long time, but he's looking quite good at the moment, Lewis Hamilton, if he can stay in touch with the Ferraris. In comes the third different race leader of the Turkish Grand Prix here. 37 laps still to go. Heikki Kovalainen, great improvement in him since that opening Grand Prix in Australia.
Yeah, he's finding his feet now, the kind of performances we were expecting from him. Let's see where he feeds out. 2 or 3 cars coming down the pit straight that could spoil his afternoon, and that is Alonso, who did indeed, of course, clear Heidfeld, and then Kubica as well, and Kovalainen clears Kubica. That'll be tight through turn 2. It's very wide through there. You can get 2 cars abreast, but no need.
Much more for double stints. That's been the case all season, but McLaren confident that when they put the soft tyre on in the last stint, then they'll be able to be faster than the Ferrari. We'll wait and see.
Button up the inside of David Coulthard. That's a battle for 12th and 13th places, and Button making that pass stick. So Jenson Button starting to make some progress here. Coulthard has already pitted, Button has not, and he is up into 12th spot. If he can keep going there, minimum damage to Ferrari and a gain on teammate Alonso. Heidfeld is 5th. 6th is Kovalainen, having his strongest run for a while. 7th is Kubica, who ran as high as fourth at one point, but he's dropped down to 7th. Rosberg is 8th and pushing hard in the Williams. 9th is Fisichella. 10th at the moment, Anthony Davidson, yet to make a pit stop. 11th, David Coulthard. Then it's Ralf Schumacher, Wirtz, Vettel, Liuzzi. 16th, Jenson Button. 17th, Sato. 18th, Barrichello. 19th, Trulli, and Yamamoto and Sutil, 20th and 21st. We're riding on board here with Ralf Schumacher, who is in 12th spot.
Ferocious conditions out there. Look at the G-force meter as he hits the brakes down into turn 12. I switch it off just when we need it most. But a lot of energy going, a lot of heat. Ralf Schumacher homing in on David Coulthard. Schumacher has yet to stop, so he'll have a much lighter car at this stage, coming from 18th on the grid. Davidson pits from P10. That puts Coulthard up into P10, but he'll be looking hard at Ralf Schumacher in his mirrors there. And, well, they're super fit, these drivers. They've got to cope with an awful lot of G-force out there. Funny thing is, as you sit on the grid, sweating like crazy, and as soon as you move, just a little bit of fresh air is a light relief, and it also feels almost chilly in some respects. So it's not so much the heat that'll get him, it is the constant, it's a frantic racetrack, and the constant G-force, especially with so many left-hand corners. They're more conditioned in the more numerous right-hand corners around the world.
Well, that last lap through, we'll see what Massa and Raikkonen did relative to each other, but Massa seems slightly the more comfortable of the two in this second stint. That last lap, Raikkonen half a tenth quicker, nothing much to choose, but the gap is 2.5 seconds between them. So Massa, by staying out that lap longer, has managed to open up a bit of a cushion over his teammate. And Hamilton there is just a tenth slower than Felipe Massa on that last lap, so definitely not being dropped by them. Massa just making an adjustment there to the, presumably to the ventilation at the top of his helmet. Yeah, a big adjustment. I really hope that didn't go in the airbox, otherwise it's good night Vienna.
I think you can probably feel a vibration up there. There is a vent on the top there, and clearly it was coming loose, so he decided to ditch it. Yeah, it's so easy to put your hand out. We've all done it. Put a rip-off strip in your own airbox that's just above your head, and the airflow tends to head that way anyway. But I think that one would have gone alongside. But reasonably big piece. It's going to hit the rear wing at quite a whack as well, but should not have done any damage.
Not to mention hit this fella following him, of course. Kimi Raikkonen, who's unlucky, having a nice piece of carbon fibre flying through the air. Do you remember a few years ago, two Ferraris following each other at Monza? Berger following a Lacey. The onboard camera fell off Raikkonen's case, 21 points in Massa's case on Lewis Hamilton. Last year, actually, Michael Schumacher did just that in 6 races. He was 21 points behind Alonso, and in 6 races he did manage to close him down. So it can be done, but you certainly need good reliability in a winning car. Kovalainen Team Radio.
Come on, mate, we need you to push. We can beat Heidfeld as well, come on. We've got a very good chance of beating Heidfeld, mate. You've got to get up closer to him, mate.
Hamilton pushing hard. Louise Goodman has some news from the pits.
Yeah, I've just been down to Spiker to find out what the problem was with Adrian Sutil. He came in, it was a routine stop, but the car stalled and then it got stuck in gear. The team weren't sure why it had happened at the time. The most pressing issue for them really was to get him out of the way, because Sakon Yamamoto was due in for his stop as well. So once they refueled Sakon, they did manage to restart Sutil and got him on his way again, as we saw.
Suspension, virtually a new car for Spiker. They were hoping it would give them about 7/8 of a second, push them up into the battle with Toro Rosso and Super Aguri. Unfortunately, that car failed a rear crash test. The FIA have very, very high safety standards, not only in motor racing, but of course in road side as well. And certainly as far as Formula One's concerned, those crash tests are not easy to pass. And sadly, Spiker failed the crash test, so that car will have to be put back possibly to Monza in 2 weeks' time, and we'll see if it can get them up ahead of 1 or 2 of the Toro Rossos when it comes.
2 old wise hands there, David Coulthard, Ralf Schumacher, and they're fighting over 10th place at the moment on different strategies. Coulthard stopped, Ralf Schumacher hasn't. He's clearly one stopping this afternoon, and they're going to end up in close company, I think, for the rest of the afternoon. It's lap 31. Massa is 2.5 seconds ahead of Raikkonen, and now 6.2 ahead of Hamilton in 3rd place, who had a poor lap. He did a 1:29.5 while the leaders were in the late 1:28 a lap or so ago, and but he's maintaining the gap to Alonso in 4th. That's 14.5 seconds. So at the moment, Hamilton is in damage limitation mode. He doesn't appear to have anything left to try to close that gap to Ferrari. And we're seeing car 1 off the track and continued at turn 8. That means Alonso then has run wide in turn 8 and gone onto the runoff strip somewhere, and hopefully we'll get a replay of that.
Well, he was 14.4 seconds behind Hamilton before he ran wide at turn 8. Still waiting for him to cut through the timing beam to tell us how much time that little moment cost him. Still showing us 14.4, so he didn't. If he did it on that lap, it didn't cost him much. On board with Ralf Schumacher and a Toyota. David Coulthard in front of us. It's the battle over 10th place here.
Toyota at the moment, that's a fact, but and I very much suspect that will not happen, but they will not confirm Ralf Schumacher at the moment for next year, and I don't know where else Ralf would go, in all honesty. It's lap 34. Massa leads Raikkonen by 2.1 seconds as we watch the McLaren of Alonso bouncing from Massa in the lead.